Genshin Impact, the game that took the world by storm in 2020, first by being a Breath of the Wild clone, and then by being an actual good game. Little Tomoyou at age 15 downloaded this game on his phone on day 1 on his way to school because he heard that it was made by the same people as Impact 3rd, and that game looked cool in all the ads Gigok was doing for them at the time. Then what did I see? People playing on Twitch and on PC? Guess I'll go back home and see, since my Samsung Galaxy A51 had already left third-degree burn scars on my hands by then. Downloaded the game on my laptop. See this piece of shit? It wasn't actually this one, but the specs are basically the same. And the game ran at a smooth 15 FPS average. But I was having so much fun that I didn't mind the motion sickness induced migraines the low frame rates gave me. Everything was fine. The characters were awesome. The elemental system was unlike anything I had ever played before, and the lore was just so deep. And the fact that they said they were planning for 7 years ahead, absolutely mind-boggling to me. Do you understand how hyped this trailer was to me back then? Now, why the fuck they would show Yansan instead of my Queen Shilona, and I'll never know, but everything here would seal the deal of my enamorment for this game. At the time, it was my favorite game of all time. And yet, I quit at some point. The enjoyment just wasn't there anymore, and I left. And now, 2-ish years since I last played consistently, here I am, in Lunar Russia, actually enjoying my time. And the title is clickbait, slightly. I've been making some short-form content about returning to Genshin since like Luna 1 came out, because that's when I actually came back. And so why did I even decide to make the video now? Maybe because it would give me an excuse to get off my ass and catch up on the story again, I don't fucking know. But I feel like maybe some of you could relate to my experience of falling out of love with the game and maybe coming back to enjoying it recently. TLDR, the game is in a very good state, I would say. Now, if you hate power creep, you can go fuck yourself. That's what Hoyo says, of course. But by most measurable metrics and my own personal tastes, which are known for being always right about everything, that's a joke, of course, I think the game is good right now. I think it really is good. So let me tell you why I came back and just how am I enjoying it again. But of course, we'll have to start from why I left to begin with. Let's go back in time, back to a time where artifacts just dropped on the fucking ground for no reason. Genshin 1.x. Genshin 1.x was a totally different experience from what we're all playing now, in and outside of the game. Inside of the game, there were a plethora of issues, bugs, weird gameplay choices, and the realization that everything after patch 1.1 isn't even part of the main story, including the very important to the lore Dragonspine event of 1.2, which now, with Durham being playable, begs the question of why don't we just get it as a regular quest? But really, the game was scuffed, and yet we enjoyed the novelty. On the outside, we have tier lists that just aged terribly, people making being free to play their whole personality.
If you're a broke boy, just say so.
Mtash losing his mind every other week, most content creators being mad at the game because it was too easy. Careful what you wish for, I guess. And the most entertaining content was watching Tony 2 blow up everything with 1% crit rate, 600% crit damage, C6 characters. And just about everyone in the community being mentally ill, with the only 2 jokes being hehe tenandayo at fucking emergency food. How did we, yes, we, think this was funny? And in the middle of it all, there was I, having a blast, vowing to play this game every day, believing that in 10 years when this game would become the greatest free-to-play game of all time, that I have a badge of honor for being an early adopter or something. And that's what I did for the better part of 2 years. I played the entirety of 2.x, feeling good about the game, never spending a dime because I didn't have a dime.
If you're a broke boy, just...
And honestly, that built character, because now, even with more resources, I don't spend on gacha games. Unless it's that one time on ZZ, or unless it's that one time on GFL. Scratch that, multiple times, fuck. But you know what I wish I did? That I used Top Up Live, the sponsor of this video. Top Up Live allows you to save massively when you top up on games like Genshin, and with my discount Tomoyou, you can get another 12% discount. So make sure to click the link down below and use my code. It helps the channel tremendously. And now, back to the video. As I was saying, I was having a blast, man. So how come did I even leave the game if it was so fun? Well, the exact moment that ruined it for me was this. Genshin Impact at some point during 3.x basically announced that it did not plan to implement harder endgame modes because, and I quote, it might end up creating excessive anxiety for our players. First off,
so that was a fucking lie.
Second, at the beginning of the game, the lack of any hard endgame wasn't even close to being an issue for me. Endgame? I barely have any 5-star characters. What do I care about 36-star in the abyss? But hearing that, 2 years into the game's existence, shit genuinely destroyed every single expectation I had for this game going forward. I want to make it clear that it really wasn't just about me no have endgame. It was more about what it represented to me. To me, that showed that the priorities of the devs were completely misaligned from what I as a player wanted. And in truth, by that point, I was already not as into the game as I used to be. It felt stale, I didn't play it every day, story presentation wasn't improving in the slightest, exploration with Sumer became needlessly tedious, the 10 hours of R&R quest should be considered an act of terrorism, and the end game that by that point I started to clear kept getting more and more HP spongy and just being less fun. And that statement to me read as, we know, but we don't care. By that point, Genshin wasn't the only game of its niche anymore. HSR was out, Wuthering Waves had already been announced. I didn't have to play this game that I wasn't enjoying with no signs of improvements anymore. And so I quit. For a good 6 months, I had logged onto the game maybe 3 times, and each and every time I would feel fucking depressed logging on, I can't lie. I would later end up forcing myself to play through 4.x because I was still attached to this game's story and wanted Farina. The underwater exploration felt like a step in the right direction, but it just wasn't enough to return to the game consistently. And I didn't even bother with Imaginary Theater until much later because it just felt like too little too late. And 5.x didn't feel good. As much as the music filled my blood with more African pride than seeing the 2 countries my parents are from in the Africa Cup of Nations finals of 2023, the movement mechanics locked behind the Nadland characters felt like just a rushed response to a success without actually understanding the problem. If you're gonna have new movement options, make them universal. This game's movement has felt clunky to me ever since I touched Tower of Fantasy on release. That's what we're talking about. Everything still felt like more or less the same, and so I didn't even end up doing the story for 5.x past the first quest. I got Mualani, sure, and I had enough from Mabuika, so when she came I got her because I just want to collect Archons, but I had stopped considering myself a fan of Genshin for years by then, even when I tried to make myself enjoy it. So that was the story of my long abusive relationship with Genshin Impact. If there's anything to take away from my experiences, to just not force yourself to play games you're enjoying, you'll just end up miserable like I was in 3.x, which even if I did eventually move on to other games, I still made the effort to at least try whether I enjoy the new updates rather than hating them from afar, because here's how I see it. I just don't understand any gacha tribalist or any video game tribalist for that matter, because even if I don't like a game at some point, I just want it to be better and more fun so I can also enjoy it rather than wanting it to keep being worse than another game I'm already enjoying. Does that make sense? I just want all these games to be good. It's simply more fun that way. And again, the only way for you to know for sure if you like it is just to try it. So that's what I did in 4.x, 5.x, and more recently with Luna.x. But I'd be lying if I said it was just my it doesn't hurt to try philosophy. It's a gacha game and there was a character that I really wanted for a really long time. That being, drum rolls please, Columbina. She should be in the thumbnail. Columbina from her first appearances in the different Fatui teasers was the character I wanted the most. Other than Arlecchino, but I lost my 50-50 on her, so she's dead to me. Columbina was everything I wanted. And since she was finally on the horizon after almost 5 years, I would have been very sad not to get her. So yeah, Luna 1 released, I played quite a bit, it was more than pleasantly surprised. In truth, I don't know how much of this is just a nod-krai thing, as I completely skipped most of Nadland's story and I'ma keep it tall, I do not care to go back. But there's been so many improvements that actually got me hopeful. The story is plain and simple better, the dialogue is a lot less bloated, to the point where I never felt like I needed a skip button, even though at this point we should have one. This area is just gorgeous. The last one I fell in love with this hard was fucking Enkanomiya, and even the exploration quests are quite easy to digest, so much so that I actually got high exploration on a lot of these areas. And last but not least, this cast of character has to be the coolest one we've had up until now for a patch cycle, surely. 2003 NBA draft level of legendary characters. Lauma, holy fuck, this woman is perfect. Her only flaw is that she reminds me of what we lost with Rosaria. Aino is literally just Tony Stark. She's literally just Tony Stark. Jarvis, let me adopt this child. Flins, this Faye is so fucking funny for no reason. I love him. He's so stupid. I love him. Nefer, good lord, if you told me she was Sumeru's Archon in 2.0, I would have believed you. I love her dynamic of playing hard to get with Llama and always folding, as well as her dynamic with Yahoda of Girl Boss Mom and Girl Failure Daughter. It's great. Speaking of Yahoda, I wish she was a 5-star, and I'm clearly not the only one thinking that, because with how much personality they gave her, I just know there's somebody at Hoyo that loves this character more than their family. Based, honestly. Varka is the GOAT, if you don't think about his kit, and Columbina herself is adorable. I remember when people were theorizing she would be like the scariest of the Fatui, some kind of eldritch or like biblically accurate angel kind of deal. But no, she's just kind of adorable. And no, that one Reddit post about Columbina's character arc being about her being privileged is retarded. And again, if this is the 2003 NBA draft, Alice is LeBron. Too bad she probably won't release in Luna.x. So yeah, I've been enjoying myself quite a bit. Got Columbina and Inefa, and now the difficulty in this game is gone, so that's something. But besides that, Meliasha Wonderland has been... I don't know, guys. I only tried it a couple of times. The patch it came out just wasn't good. Oh, getting to see hidden substats before leveling was a great thing that I was astonished when it was Genshin first to introduce it. It's a godsend, honestly. The artifact transmuter is also pretty good. I just prefer the HSR alternative. And addressing the elephant in the room, power creep. The end game has become quite something. Unfortunately, with these gacha games, power creep is bound to happen because at some point, if the characters are all at the same power level, it becomes harder and harder to sell them. I think the easiest way to deal with that ethically is just to have older characters that work with newer ones be buffed up to the standard, so you're just never completely left without anything. The free constellation thing is a good thing, but I fucking hate it. Here's why. Imagine doing 7 weeks out of 8 because you were busy. I don't even need to imagine it because that's what happened to me. 5 days is fucking diabolical for anybody who isn't unemployed or only plays this game. Hoyo, what the fuck were you thinking? At this point, I'm just rambling, but honestly, we're probably done. I've been enjoying Genshin Impact. Yes, the allegations are true. Would I recommend it? If you've enjoyed it at some point before, I think the Luna version just has everything Genshin but better. And if you've never played it before, maybe. I think it's still a great game to pick up for free, insane amount of content for 0 buckaroos, but I can't guarantee you'll fall in love with it. I mean, there's so many other games you could play that are more modern, but I think it remains a valid choice even 5.5 years later. For me, I am just glad I found appreciation again for something that was such a huge part of my life growing up. Yes, growing up, which feels weird to say, but I was 15 when I started this game. I'm 21. I'm getting old. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. Bye bye. Peace out. Mwah.